Welcome to My Long Island TV. From Manhasset to Montauk, we have traveled our communities to bring you the following events. I'm your host, Waldo Cabrera. My Long Island TV starts now.
Today we have a whiskey event going on in the store. In the past, vodka used to be the big thing. Rum and vodkas were the big spirits in the States. And over the last couple of years, whiskey's had a huge resurgence. It's about, showing the customers that you just don't have to go to the, big box brands. It's about trying the little local guys, getting the guys that are handcrafting things.
So I'm from Breuckelen Distilling. We do everything from scratch. We buy nothing pre-made. We work with one farmer outside of Ithaca who provides us with all of our grain. And the 5 of us in Brooklyn, we distill it all ourselves, make our own mashes, ferment ourselves, and do everything in-house. We started with a not London Dry style gin. It's called Glorious Gin. And then we have 2 whiskeys. There's 77 whiskey. One is New York wheat, and one is local rye and corn. And what makes them really different is that they're all really non-traditional. The gin starts with wheat base that we make our own spirit of, and we retain the honey character of that spirit instead of using something neutral. Then we have juniper, but we get rid of that heavy pine, so it's much more floral. And then we use none of the traditional London Dry botanicals. Instead, we use lemon, grapefruit, ginger, and rosemary, and blend those all together. I think our whiskeys are really fun because they're different than what's really out in the market. And so people who kind of want to try something new get to try them, and they're kind of fond by them because they are so different. But also, I think because they're much lighter style, people who generally aren't into whiskeys, they can get into whiskeys by trying ours.
Rebellion is a bourbon from Kentucky made by the Gilberti Distillery, exclusively for my company, which is the Opici Wine Company. It's a 96 proof bourbon. Sells for under $30, aged for 6 years, and for all you bourbon drinkers, it's nice and hot, easy to drink, and it's a nice cigar bourbon. The Koval is a small batch rye. It's called a millet rye, dark millets toasted. It is high proof. It is small production, very limited, and we actually have one here. It's called 47th Ward. It's exclusive to the Wine Guy. You can't get it anywhere else in New York.
The Glenlivet is the quintessential Speyside single malt whiskey. We've been making this malt whiskey in the same slow, careful way since the early 1800s in a small valley in the Highlands of Scotland called Glenlivet, which means Valley of the Smooth Flowing One, and officially since 1824. And we are now the #1 selling single malt Scotch in the country and one of the most iconic whiskey labels in the world. When it was first being produced illegally by smugglers in the Highlands who were hiding from the excise officers, the valley of the Glenlivet was so remote that they were able to take their time without worry that they were going to be captured, and started to craft some remarkably smooth whiskey. Before we were even making it legally, people were calling for Glenlivet whiskey all over Scotland because the name sort of became synonymous with the good stuff. So by the time we started producing it legally, it already had a huge following. I like to say it was sort of the first brand name in the industry before there was an industry.
We are representing Larceny today, which is a wheated bourbon, a little unusual. It's produced in the spirit of Old Fitz, which was a Pappy Van Winkle. He was one of the founders of the bourbon movement back in the 1800s. In order to be called a bourbon, it must be 51% corn mash. What makes Larceny different is the second ingredient is wheat, which is very unusual in a bourbon, and it offers a very smooth finish to the product. Bourbons, ryes, whiskeys, I think there's something for everyone's palate. Girls, don't be shy, step right up, try it straight. They don't have the bite that they used to. There are so many wonderful cocktails offered at the bars these days. The old fashions are back, the sidecars are back. So don't forget the darker liquors. It's not just a vodka world.